All right, I've got 5:01. We will call the Plan Commission meeting to order. We'll start with roll call, please.
Justin,
Here.
Jan,
Here.
David,
Here.
Mitch,
Here.
Richard. I don't believe he's coming tonight. Tanya. Oh, here. And Sonia.
She said here. All right. Item number 2, review and approval of minutes from November 12th, 2025 meeting.
This is Tanya. I will make the motion to approve the minutes.
All right, got a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any additions or corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, item number 3, review and approval of extraterritorial certified survey map for Jason and Nikki Steele.
Okay, they are here. And this is basically, it looks like you're doing a division of into 2 different lots. This is off of Old Highway 14. I did put there's a kind of a picture further up or whatever if you wanted to see where that's actually located, but I don't know if you wanted to give them a synopsis, if you just wanted to come up to the microphone and let them know. Other than the fact that it's a division, that's about all I know about the map.
You gotta hit the little button. It's got a picture of a person's face.
Oh, there you go, it's green.
Okay. The line is just gonna divide it, and then we have an easement out the back. So if you look at the west side, when we purchased the property, we purchased the easement as part of the property. So the driveway will come out onto, I don't think it's Duncan. Okay. So that'll be out the west side of the property. It's the bottom. Yep.
So that part is the part that we would. So this has been reviewed by the county surveyor. This is not the most up-to-date one. He has made the changes that the surveyor requested, and the newest version will be coming to council next week. With an extraterritorial, the way these are is that this is more informational for the council to know what's happening within that 1.5-mile radius, not necessarily things that you can actually not approve. So again, this is for more information on what's going on around us, so.
I have just a question.
Sure.
I'm supportive, very supportive. I'm just curious, what are the county rules for the minimum acre for a lot?
The township was 2 acres.
2.
Good. All right. Well, thank you.
I said Duncan.
Duncan
Marley.
ends on a cul-de-sac, and then Marley Road goes off of that.
Sure.
So I just couldn't think of the name.
I couldn't think of the road, but I just looked it up. I was like, oh. There. Great. Any other questions for them? Now we're looking for a motion to approve the survey map.
This is Mitch. I'll make a motion to approve the survey map.
Right. Is there a second?
This is Sonia, I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You bet. Yes.
Oh, okay. I heard a little faint there.
Yeah. Yeah, you're good.
You're good. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to item number 4, which is discussion and review of draft future land use map.
We reviewed the future land use map at the last plan commission meeting in around mid-November, so it was around 3 weeks ago. At that point, the plan commission members had a good conversation, a good deal of input, things like that. And what we're looking at here tonight is to basically extend that discussion. So for Mitch's benefit, who is new, the future land use map is a key part of what comes out of the comprehensive plan. It is intended to identify what the future use of property not only within the city is, but then there's also a second version that shows the extraterritorial, the property just adjacent to the city is. And I'll explain this in a second, Tanya and Sonia, is that think of it as a more general version of the zoning map, where a zoning map will have multiple residential zones. A future land use map will maybe just have one or have more general versions of it. So this map will inform the future zoning map. Future zoning map we create will need to be in line with this. So it's important that we sort of create this in a way that really is our intention, but also leaves us flexibility for like future decision making, because the zoning process in and of itself is fairly extensive. So all the notes that you folks provided at the last meeting, I bundled up and I sent over to the folks at Redevelopment Resources over the course of the last couple weeks, minus the Thanksgiving week, because that was just really busy. We'd had some conversations about it, and unfortunately, I didn't get that out to you folks until earlier today. But we can take time and go through that. But the version that was resent out by Lori today is the updated future land use map that sort of absorbs some of the changes that we had talked about. Okay. In addition, the future land use descriptions includes revisions, most notably adds the downtown category, which is something that we had talked about at the last meeting. And then finally, this last document, which is about 3 pages, is Kristen's answers to a lot of the questions, very good questions that we had, and I do have additional comments on those. But that's generally what was in the package that was delivered to you today. So before I go on, does anybody have any immediate questions based on what I just said?
I have a question that I think will assist in our discussion. Can you remind all of us what is considered future? So which date is considered? Because in her comments, she mentions, how can I clarify this? That future could be 5 or 10 years from now, so it wouldn't impact like property values today, for example.
Right. Future land use planning is, in my understanding, is what would take effect after ratification of the comprehensive plan. So any point thereafter is future
That's
land use plan.
considered-
It's not
okay.
like, hey, future land use is
that's fine.
defined
I'm
as
just
3
curious.
years or 2 years.
Okay.
But
then
that's a good
this-
point. I never really
this-
thought about
The
that.
second clarifying question on the,
Wait, just to stay on that one, and how far out?
Until we
like-
change it again.
And that could happen, like in general, it's.
Typically,
20 year.
by rule, we're required to provide an update to the plan every 10 years.
Okay.
And we could do a
But that's
full
a-
revamp within 20, yeah.
About every 10 years is when the city takes it up
Generally.
again.
the
Sure.
map, or that was my second question, the map or the comprehensive plan? Like, how long is this comprehensive plan, like,
It's a
supposedly
20-year
for?
plan, but it's kind of the weird thing, like best practices, you're expected updated every 10 years.
Hmm.
Okay, but it is a 20-year plan.
Yep.
And which you can sort of see by the fact that we ratified the first comprehensive plan in 2006, 2007. I think it was the very beginning of 2007. 20 years would mean like, hey, we're ahead of schedule. We're not, because we really should have updated it back in 2017.
Got it.
So that's generally the game plan. But it's kind of the weird thing with those plans is like it's a 20-year plan, but they expect you to update it 10 years in, which makes sense. And it's
Yes,
good
'cause things
practices for
change.
those reasons. But therefore, the future land use plan would then, assumingly, we would want to update it in 10 years as well. Any other, Sonia, I think you were going to another question before.
Those were my two.
Okay. Perfect. David, Jan, anything from you folks just yet?
Nope, I'm good.
Nothing from me.
So I want to, before we go into the future land use plan, I do want to just walk through Kristen's conversations. So the first one's pretty simple. Should we have a downtown category? She said, yep. They went ahead and added a category in the description here, and then also put down, so here's the description. Right? I think this sort of matches fairly nicely with what we have going and what we generally envision as a downtown. And then here's the future land use plan, and they just took a stab at the area that we would want. And again, the terminus, generally south of the highway shop or now North Point and north of South Street is generally the north-south borders of what we consider the downtown. And then the east to west is generally like from DeLapp, Rock Avenue area to the west over to South Rusk to the east. I do have the downtown area extending a little farther to the east, and the terminus there is simply because that's where the tobacco warehouse is at. And so I didn't make that necessarily a conscious effort. That's just sort of what we had. If we feel like, hey, maybe that's not downtown, maybe that's more of this flex commercial residential, and the flex commercial residential should come a little bit farther this way, right? And that would, I guess we could generally say that it butts up against Rusk Avenue. Okay. Does that drive with everybody else? Okay. Right. Okay. Jan, David, anything on the downtown aspect of this you'd like to discuss further?
No, that was one of the questions that I had, was how far that stretches out along Decker like that, but you addressed that already.
Okay.
Yeah, same here. It does seem to make sense to me to stop it at Rusk, but I'm open to other ideas too.
All right. Well, it sounds like both are good. So let's move on to the next element, which was a conversation about implications of any changes institutional uses. So again, I didn't have them make the change this time around because I still wanted them to show the institutional uses on the map. But as you can see, Tanya, I don't know, did you have a chance to read this ahead of time, Tanya?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So again, the goal here was concerns that if something's institutional now, but maybe we want to sell it in the future, we would hate to have our future land use plan prevent good development. So they basically, Kristen basically said, here's some options. You can zone the property for what you want it to be and just do like an overlay, which makes sense just to help us identify it. You can use a planned development or specific implementation zoning that allows both, which is, I'd have to ask more questions on exactly what that is, but it essentially means like you just kind of put a special layer on it that lets it go both ways, or you keep it in a general government or park district, but explicitly write the ordinance to allow private uses with council approval. So I think 1 or 3 both delivers what we wanted it to do. It's just, what is your taste?
I like 1. I think it's visually, people read maps more than they read words.
So basically do the color as the base
like
and
a
then do
hash
maybe
or
like hash
something.
overlay. Okay. David, Jan, we got a lot of nods on this side. You guys good with that?
Yeah,
I'm
same for me.
nodding.
Nodding.
I see a cat, Jan, or a dog or something furry. All right. Last one is probably the biggest one, or sorry, the second to last one is, what do we do with the ag land category? There was questions about if we take property, and again, I've left it here to show, let's say this land here, south of South Street and along Highway 56 heading southeast. What are the implications if we were to, instead of having that be ag land, we turn that into flex commercial residential or whatever we felt was appropriate. And I believe you guys saw Kristen's response to that. And one of her biggest things was about property values. And in a nutshell, what she said is that by turning the future land use from one thing to another, there's a good chance that it can increase property values. In some way, she says overnight. If you remember what I said when this came up, this is very much contrary to what I told you guys. And it's for a reason, is because what I told you guys at our last plan commission meeting was essentially from my conversation with our city assessor, Barrett Brenner. So when I saw this, I was like, ooh, that's different.
Yeah.
So I contacted Barrett and I said, Barrett, this is what our consultant is saying. Is this accurate? And he's like, no. So what Kristen's saying is somewhat true, but she did know, like my response was a little too firm. An assessor, depending on the assessor's sort of perspective on it and point of view on it, it could, but Barrett's like, I do not change the assessment of property until it switches use.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
Right.
Right.
So, so I just want to really qualify what I sent out earlier, because I had the conversation with Barrett after I wanted to get this information out to you folks as soon as possible, but I wanted to have a conversation with Barrett to discuss further. So I think we can feel comfortable changing
Mhm.
to residential if we felt like that was appropriate. However, I guess there's always the possibility that the guidance around assessment practice could change that may make that different, but under Barrett's current assessment practice, he would not go out there and change the values based on the fact that we approved the map.
I'm curious whether, like, if that's a Barrett specific response, like if if he retired, I don't know who he is, but if he retired and we had a new assessor, would the answer be the same? But
It does not appear that it would be, and Kristen kind of backed off. She's like, yep, I think Barrett's more correct than I am on
Okay.
this particular case. More of my concern was, does the guidance pass down from the DOA regarding assessment values, whether that would change, that would sort of now say you can reassess it based on what the future land use plan says or what zoning says.
and if it was just straight up ag and that person who owned that green property wanted to sell it to a developer today, would that mean they would not be able to put a development on it?
Because it's currently zoned as ag, you know?
And they wouldn't be able to come and ask for a rezoning?
Or a PUD, could they?
They could do a PUD, the rezoning they could do, but it would have to be in line with the future land use plan.
Got it.
And if the future land use plan is restrictive and says ag only, then we're out of compliance. We would have to go then through the process of changing our future land use plan. So where there's a will, there's a way, and we could get it done. But you're basically have to go back and reverse several guidelines you put into place, more than guidelines, several sort of like rules you put in place for yourself, and you'd have to go back and change the rules before you were allowed to do that.
Also, assessors, it's my understanding, don't normally, in their job of data analysis, they don't normally look through comprehensive plans and maps. They're looking at like more on the ground.
And that's what Barrett
What we've been
basically
issuing.
corroborated, Sonia.
Yeah.
But she does, I think, nonetheless, Kristen does offer some good options if we want to just be more careful that we can get to a bottom. The other one is, does it control growth? And what she said is like, yeah, by allowing it to be residential, you're accelerating growth by opening up more, which is generally what
We need.
maybe what we're trying to do. So I don't
Yeah.
think that's a big surprise to us. I think it just sort of validates what we were kind of thinking before.
We're talking about, for example, just allocating just a portion of that property to be designated, not the entire, or do you have to do the whole?
Personally, I
Right.
think like if we're looking at the light green, the ag near south and
Mhm.
56, that should, in my opinion, if we need a lot of housing, that should be all housing,
The entire light green
Yeah.
thing?
not just a portion. Which the
Sure, but I guess
likelihood
I'm
of that
just-
happening anytime soon is.
I'm just
not
asking
zero.
whether or not you can have two different classifications on one lot.
Right now, this is set up to be a by parcel zoning. So whatever the existing parcels are, you would have to arbitrarily go in there and try to split the parcels and apply different zoning. Again, I think where there's a desire, we certainly could, if we said, no, we have to do it this way. And certainly there might be reason to, if we saw the adjacent highway stuff, we would want to be commercial, but the off-highway stuff, we would want more residential. That's a fairly common approach.
Oh, that's a good point.
It just, it depends. And again, here, the idea of some of these future land use maps is you could put it in as flex commercial residential. So right now we're 5,000 feet, but when we get into zoning, that's where we could get more specific on zoning. So I'll just finish this and then we can, so we talked about growth, and then they did talk a little bit about going backwards. So like once you allow something for residential and people buy it, and then you reverse backwards to more restrictive uses, that has come under legal challenge. So kind of understanding this is maybe in some ways a one-way street. That makes, when they say zoning up or zoning down, that's what I took from it. And then she just has some best practices here regarding agricultural farmland and things like that, about different categories. It's like, if you must show long-term urban growth, use very broad categories that explicitly preserve agricultural use and use valuation tax in the interim. So if you did something like long-term growth or urban reserve, you could say like, hey, this could become something in the future, like 10 years from now, but we don't see it happening anytime soon. We could ask Kristen to, let's investigate those categories a little bit, but I didn't go so far as to say like, tell me all about those right now. Right? I wanted to.
Here's a thought. Is it possible, sorry to interrupt you, but with that idea that you just had, could we add one more color?
Sure.
So that like this light green, like the likelihood that the near Maple, near Prairie Wind, near this, you know, might actually not happen for quite a while, also because of infrastructure issues. So maybe there could be another color.
Well, and based on what we were talking about at the last meeting, Sonia, would it necessarily be another color, or would you just remove ag and just call it long-term urban growth? Or
Yeah.
you would just replace, because if you take out all the light green, is there any light green left?
That's a good point.
Right.
That's a good point.
Right, but that's kind of what I'm just
Yeah.
reiterating that, because that's kind of what you were specifically
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
at among some other folks about like, if it's within the city, why are
I
we
totally agree.
maintaining farmland and not at least giving the opportunity for smart development to happen? And again, just to kind of play off that a little bit, what you could do is, instead of calling this ag, you call it a more broad, what did they say? Urban
Reserve.
reserve, which is kind of a fun phrase, or long-term growth
Long-term
area.
growth.
And then we just define long-term growth area.
I mean, honestly, if we don't have a 20-year plan to extend the infrastructure down Highway 56, if that's not in the, the next, if feasible, next 20 years, then there's no reason actually to even be looking at what we need to call it. Because nothing's going to happen. Nobody's going to be able to develop it.
Not necessarily, because if you can calculate the return on the property tax value, if there was enough housing going up, you could have the funds to go out.
Well, there's already
Or create new TIF districts later.
like sewer down, infrastructure down there. There's
That's
a lift
right.
station
All the way down 56.
down at the bottom.
Down to 56, down
Yeah.
to here.
So, and this is a really good conversation. Part of my game plan here is starting with you folks and saying, what would be ideal? This is what would be ideal. And then I'm going to take that ideal map and here's what Plan Commission came up to. Then we're going to go to Public Works and say, Public Works, Sarah in particular, can you review this and tell me if there's any problems with this, any concern from an
Great idea.
infrastructure standpoint? And then Public
Yeah.
Works can bounce it back to us and say, you know what, guys, got a little aggressive going down 56.
Yeah.
We would recommend this.
I like that idea.
But she didn't necessarily, I'll say in my conversation with Sarah, because I have had several conversations with her, hers was like, there's certain areas of town that have some challenges to it, but she didn't necessarily feel like infrastructure was a limiting factor
That's good.
in general. But I didn't get into the specific, Tanya, about that southeast corner. But we can bounce that off her. So, last thing here, future green space, we talked about like, should we go and outright designate future park green space in a land use plan ahead of time? Because how do we know where it goes and what is the right amount? And so her conversation was basically say, keep it mapped as you want it. Again, she's still on this like preserve low taxes, but that's less of a concern now. And then what we would just need to do is strengthen our ordinance around parkland. So she was sort of picking up what we were talking about at the
Like
last meeting.
percent or
A
try to
percentage,
have-
yep. We have a 20-year parks open spacing plan that is not part of the future land use plan because that just gives us more flexibility, and we've already done that with our court plan to a degree. And then this is, she said sterilizing farmland or creating impossible tax situations. I think this was kind of in line with what we were talking about for the reasons that she explains. Like, this just lets us make those decisions as development happens and people, developers start mapping out and saying, I need this, and what is the appropriate amount of parkland, so.
Got it.
All right. So with that, was there any questions on any of Kristen's responses? Okay. So with that, what I'd be looking from you folks at this time, if you have them and are ready, are any additional changes that you would recommend the group make to the future land use plan? And Mitch, by all means, I know you're just jumping into now, ask as many questions as you need. The two things I have right now are, again, not terminating, but basically carrying this orange color all the way to Rusk. Yep, the east side of Rusk, and then using the institutional overlay for the majority of what's in teal. The only thing that would remain as perhaps as institutional are things like the landfill and the airport that, I mean, I guess there's a potential in the future that the airport shuts down. Hopefully that does not happen. But certainly we could put zones on that and then overlay and say this is an airport right now, right? That's essentially this sort of like hashed thing we could put over the county's buildings and the salt shed and the new shop and all that stuff, and put it all as, you know, instead of the school being this teal, would we make school just the yellow residential color and then just hash mark it?
Oh,
You see what I'm saying? Like, we know that we want to do an overlay. The question is what color then what is the underlying color for some of these institutional areas? So here, let's use a smaller example that's not the school district, because that's maybe hard to imagine. The old fire station. Currently going to be used by the utilities. But let's say we'd want to potentially sell that in the future. Should it be yellow? Should it be gray? And then we do.
a flex. To me, it should be orange with like a navy blue could be or a blue, some other color blue could be a hashtag for all institutional.
So what's weird about that then is that would be the only orange color in that area versus residential. So that's where we're going to have to sort through that a little bit. Cause I don't typically, unless it's a park, right? Go ahead.
Because that gray, that's what industrial,
Mhm.
but there's plenty of houses along Railroad Avenue.
Sure.
So
Could
by
be orange.
identifying it gray doesn't mean it can't be residential, or but identifying it yellow means it can't be industrial.
Well, essentially that's what the future land use, you would need to be
Right.
congruent. So like the industrial here says manufacturing, warehousing, distribution, and support services. None of that is residential.
Oh,
What, the residentials are just grandfathered into that then? Because there's people living there.
Not in.
No, that's the fire station.
So this is, so currently though, this is like industrial or commercial, like current zoning. This is where the house
Actually,
is
then.
up here.
So this just
This
stops
down
at the,
here.
okay, I thought it
This is
went
kind of-
further. Okay.
And I thought the same
Yeah.
thing. And I was
Mhm.
looking at it and I'm like, no, this
Mhm.
is Linton, so the power substation is like. right
Isn't it,
Mhm.
did they get the wrong parcel? Isn't this the fire station? And then this is the fire station grounds?
here.
These right here, all three of these. So I just got the wrong one. This is a house? No, because this is a fire station too?
Mhm. Yeah.
This and that. And what about, what's this?
That's
Okay, I
that
think all should be
ocean
wrong.
shot.
Oh, right. Okay. So I was gonna say, like, we messed this up. Okay.
Hey, Justin, turn on your speaker, please, when you're talking, so I
I'm
can hear what you're saying.
I was just pointing out that I think the part that is the fire station isn't just, I mean, that the next where Nate was moving his mouse around is also owned by the city and used by the fire station, with the exception of where his little hand is right now. That's like a woodworking shop.
This
And
is,
then,
yeah.
yep. And then if you go,
this is fire station, fire station, fire station.
Right.
It's Training ground.
right, training grounds, right. And if you go south of where your hand is right now, that's just vacant land that was part of the old Howard Johnson. It's just owned by like Edward Jones storage.
So those three, there's three that should be blue right now.
Right. You're correct, Jan. This one, and this one.
But specifically like that back grade chunk, the northernmost, that's vacant ground right now, right? So like that could get sold.
I'd rather it's
house-
be seen, yeah, as an option to have housing there
Flex.
and moving in the direction. I don't think it should be gray.
I'm also
so
wrong, Tanya. There is one house in the gray.
I'm sure there
just-
is, yeah. I
that's
mean,
just-
like weird, strange housing lots everywhere,
Yeah.
but
There's
I-
one.
I think those properties should go in the flex direction, right?
I don't think there is. Oh,
Yeah,
unless
there is.
down below, it's this one right
That's
here.
orange.
This one right here.
Nope. If you move west over onto Railroad,
That's east.
you're right. Yep. east. Sorry.
Is
I
it
don't
this one?
always know, but
That one, I believe, yeah, that one there has a house on it.
So
I
could
feel like we
the
need to
three
look at that
sites that the
section.
city owns that should be blue, could those all three be changed to orange? And then the one that's the house is already potentially should be an orange. And then where the train depot is, the Kickapoo, that's not industrial. Maybe that should be considered flex. That should maybe be orange.
Yeah, because we don't necessarily have a flex residential industrial
Right, you don't
land
really-
category.
Right.
Right? And so, but I do think what you're saying of like having this gradual transition from residential to commercial to industrial does make sense, because right now you have some houses right up in, but, okay.
And I think realistically, what you're going to see there, the progression of that into the future is going to be away from industrial, more towards commercial or residential than you are from commercial residential to industrial. I think, as those properties turn over, they're becoming less industrial.
Okay.
It's just
Yeah,
Oh, well.
I'm right in that neighborhood. so.
okay.
What's the blue property just north of this? This one right here? Is that the dog park?
Yeah.
Okay,
Where are you talking about?
the dog park.
The
Wait.
county, yeah.
Well, this is the county salt
County,
sheds.
yeah. The green is the dog park.
And then the green is the dog park,
Got it,
half of which
okay.
is in the city and half of which is not. So-
Yep.
And again, so before we leave this, my understanding that what you folks want is basically everything that is sort of abutting Broadway and this section of Railroad, and I'm going to try to like outline it here. All of this should maybe be turned to orange. This is where the cell tower is, and so that can probably be turned to orange as well. I
Mhm.
mean, it's
I'd go
not-
the whole way down.
You would do the whole Railroad Avenue?
I think
I
so.
mean, here's the deal. It's weird. If I look at this and I go, oh my God, the only really like designated industrial section we have is like, right, like
Right next
really
to
close to the heart of
Porter.
the city. So in general, if any one of those industrial companies wanted to sell their property, I would rather that it goes commercial residential than continues to stay industrial, and that we push the industrial up north where it should be.
which we really don't have.
But we don't have.
Right. I mean, we have commercial light industrial flex, right? And there's quite a bit of it. So it's not like you couldn't do light industrial. It's just like you're basically saying any of our heavy industrial areas, right? Because you got like Moglin in there and
I know.
None of those, nothing that's in there is industrial
anymore.
anymore.
Just trucking and.
Right. Yeah, there's a truck shop where they
Yeah.
store trucks and light maintenance. There's the gas company, there's
If there's nothing
storage units.
actually industrial in there, we could change it to commercial, couldn't we? Flex.
Right.
I mean, that
Used
would
to be a
add
lot of
the
commercial in there, or industrial.
Yeah.
Right? Like that makes sense to me that it was zoned that at one point, but
Sure.
anymore it doesn't.
Sure.
There's no.
Yeah. So what I'll do, and I'll take a stab at it and we'll bring it back, is transition this basically down here, Justin, will be flex commercial industrial.
Okay.
And then, which is like this purple color,
Yep.
a lot of what's in the, think of the Vroca Business Park, right? That'll be
Mhm.
all here. And then as we transition up closer to the fire station, I'll transition it to flex commercial residential.
I like it.
Does that vibe with everybody?
Yep.
We
Down
should
below
change
is
it
gonna
to
be commercial. Or industrial, light industrial, or no, industrial, commercial mixed.
So you're gonna have this gradient, Sonia, from the southwest, flex commercial industrial, and then as it gets closer to the old fire station, we're gonna transition it to flex commercial residential.
So what that means then is like if Forecash sells their property, an industrial company could go in there. That's the point I'm trying to make. Like, wouldn't it be better to keep it? I mean, it's fine, what's theirs, they can have it as long as they want to, but if the property sells, wouldn't we want it to revert to commercial?
So there's commercial and then there's light industrial and then there's heavy industrial. So like what's out at the Viroqua Business Park could, or Railroad Avenue, like Shade Haven.
Mhm.
Shade Haven is light
Yep.
industrial.
Okay,
So I think we would all
Got
be
it.
comfortable with
Okay.
like a Shade Haven
Thank you.
building, but what we want to avoid is the really aggressive industrial. And
Well,
that's,
and likely the space in that particular area doesn't lend itself to a heavy commercial, like a very heavy
Yeah.
industrial type of a business, I would assume.
so,
Right, yeah.
and Tanya, this is a really key point. So right up there, it says flex commercial industrial. This is just the future land use map. Then we get to zoning, and when we get to zoning, that's where we get more specific and say light industrial versus heavy industrial. So
Sure.
by making it this sort of, is this
Okay.
mauve?
That's why he's, yeah.
Right.
yeah.
We would make this mauve and then we could decide later, like just how we want the zoning rules to be written to either permit or prevent certain types of businesses.
I like it.
Okay. Jan, David, you guys all good with that?
Good for me.
Sounds good.
Okay. So we started the conversation with an overlay and we got really specific on this one area. The institutional, if we were to change other institutional to a base color with then just an institutional overlay, does anybody have any preferences or concerns about what anything might become? So for instance, here, this is WTC in the library. I would assume that we would just make those downtown zoning
Yep.
because it's surrounded. So that's fairly easy and I can take a stab at it. School, big school district building. This would be a really weird thing to happen, but if they said, you know what? We're going all online. We don't need to be in person anymore. Shut the school down, sell it for residential houses. Would I just make that yellow with an overlay for the school district
Mhm.
or an institutional overlay, right? And then, so as I go through here, is there anything else? I think like this is kind of on a fringe area where you have, is this the Erlinson building or is this the prison, the jail? So this,
Well, the jail would be on the left there. And then as you move over the thing with the little bump out, I think that's probably the Erlinson building or Vernon Manor. Yeah, you're right.
so this is Vernon Manor here. And that-
Erlinson.
Erlinson, and
Jail.
then is this a combo sheriff's office and jail, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting here because you have this commercial property here that all like heads right into the sheriff's office
Mhm.
on a straight shot.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody has any strong opinions on this. This is already a residential facility.
Right.
This could become a residential facility.
County sold that building, that could become an interesting flex commercial,
This one here,
the count, yeah, the
Erlinson.
Erlinson.
back.
the Erlinson
Yeah.
building here.
So maybe make it all orange with the blue, like if you have the blue hashtag, like a darker blue is the
Yeah.
institution.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too, because as we're heading up that way, as we're heading up that way, we're going toward the business park, and then there's planned residential up there, future residential, right? And
Right now, all of this I have is commercial light industrial.
I thought there was in the phase 2 of the in the business park was.
I don't think we'd ever gotten that far. We always mapped it out and said, hey, there would be future phases and that those future phases could be residential, but we just had never gotten that far.
Okay,
I
Well-
thought that was over here if we ever expanded.
if we purchase the property.
Right. I'm talking about the land between what's purple now and Railroad Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember in some meetings where I was at, that was discussed, like that would be where we'd designate
Mm-hmm.
residential in that
Okay.
area.
It's like, yeah, maybe it was phase 3.
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so right now,
Well, the reason why I'm kind of bringing it up is that if there were to be, neighborhoods developed on the north end of town, as you think about those, having the ability to have a mixed, residential, commercial, so that there can be pocket neighborhoods
Mhm.
with businesses there, and not having it all just be residential is, I think, a good direction to go.
And you have, that's kind of this here, right? Like,
So continuing with that.
right, this could continue up this way.
but you're correct. So like this was intended to be phase 2 of the business park, and then this back here was phase 3, and that is, if I remember, there was some conversation about like, hey, could that be residential?
That where it was?
Yeah. So,
knew it was
and I
phase
just took, and a lot of this, like these initial plans are me taking a stab at understanding what's out there, what makes sense. And you could say, keep your commercial light industrial here, and then you start going into commercial
Or flex,
flex.
like think of a gym with apartments in the future or something.
So you could say,
Pickleball courts.
you could redo this as, all as orange. I started orange here because this is, I mean, all of this right now is farmland,
Right.
all of it.
I think those 2 parcels that you just went up should be orange for future potential housing.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I'd agree as well.
And then what's close to the road in Sleepy Hollow is the color you have it.
Yep.
Mitch, you're
Is
lucky.
that the county east farm?
No, that's still West Farm. East Farm's east of Railroad.
Oh, okay.
So like where the highway shop is, that's the East Farm.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to talk about on this? Switch to.
I did want to ask a question unrelated to, this governmental stuff.
Sure.
On this map, though, we're not leaving the map yet, are we?
No, it
No,
doesn't
okay.
sound like, she just, it sounds like, I mean, we can go wherever you want, but I got the gist from Tanya's question that she wanted to talk about the map, but just not specifically
got it.
these teal colors.
Hilarious.
So, when I was researching some of this, I was also wondering about, like, as we're looking at the future development possibilities, like, at what point, or has it been done to like identify like fragile areas or areas that we would want? Because I noticed that there isn't a conservation color just parkland. You know what I mean? So like, for example, when it came up about the old landfill, like that, never build on that. So that seems to me like that's maybe, it's like conservation land, not, you know what I mean? Or if there's fragile areas, which would be a question for Sarah, who's not here any longer, like are there areas in the, you know,
Like a
in
creek or something that could.
erosion? Yeah, like this is definitely not a good area to have a development in because of erosion controllers, things like that. And I know that some cities do overlays of that, those kind of designations or just identifying that. And I did also want to bring up, and I don't know how you bring this in, but to bring up you know, and they mentioned it in the comprehensive plan, the dark sky impact. And just again, like keeping in mind, you know, when we think about developments, it's going to raise the lighting in certain areas. And if there's places that we don't want that to happen for whatever reason, again, that overlay. I'm just curious if that's something that we want to do here as well. I think it's like an extra thing you look at.
So
It's
I can
not necessarily on
point,
this
I can
map,
point to
but-
this dark sky comment right now. When I reread the comprehensive plan, they mentioned light pollution, but they never had a recommendation specific to
Mm.
creating a dark sky ordinance for the city, which I
Mhm.
think is really necessary to keep the, you know, the health for the whole community, not just the birds.
Yeah, so maybe that's more of an ordinance thing than.
I don't think
than
it needs
overlay,
to be
but
in a
the-
map, but it needs to be, it's missing.
Yeah.
It's strikingly missing to me.
So certainly the teeth is in the ordinance and the zoning. So if you have zoning that says within the zoning, you cannot build with whatever, you can just have those guidelines within there. Whether or not there's a special layer for dark sky, I haven't necessarily seen one, but I am not the guru of future land use plans. I have seen what Tanya was talking about a little bit more, where they have environmental corridors or wetland corridors, or especially in communities where there's water, right? You
Mhm.
typically say, hey, like this is river area. Can't really build in this because this floods every 5 years. And we don't have anything like that, but it's certainly a question I can ask if, you know, especially for
Maybe for
Tara,
Sarah, yeah.
upon your review of this, is there anything that is particularly concerning for you that if we are going to build there, we have to be very thoughtful about what does go in there and
Mhm.
how you go about building? So I can ask that question. I can at the same time ask about dark sky. That one just
It
seems like a little
Sounds like an
harder
ordinance more.
to maybe
Mhm.
figure out.
I think the dark sky should not be an overlay, but I think it's absent in the comprehensive
Okay.
plan. So at least to make it a recommendation.
Okay.
And I would specify to Sarah, are there, I think, storm water swales or potential? To me, that would be what she should look at. Are the corridors related to stormwater management that we should highlight to not develop on?
There, also, so I met with, Sean Murphy Lopez, who did the bike plan for us, because I wasn't a part of that process and I wanted to just get myself up to speed. And some of the things like, so I was reviewing the bike plan and I wondered also if, like, talking about identifying like potential future trails that connect, the connecting trails, having that be also a part of the land use. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like. if in
Yeah,
that
you're talking
process-
about the actual bike and pedestrian map.
Mhm.
In the future.
Can we have that, or at least some elements of that
So,
incorporated into?
Yeah. What gets challenging when it comes to maps is when you start having too much information on a map, it becomes really challenging for people to
Mhm.
understand. We ran into that alone with the airport map where we
Mhm.
started trying to put elevations on there. And so I would say the my best guess on how to approach that is let the future land use map be this.
Okay.
And just be really careful about adding too much information, but then also like part of what they've constantly referenced is that bike use plan. And so a lot of times you're going to have to go into the situation where you're going to have to look at them side by side a little bit to figure out that. The GIS map may be a way electronically for us to be able to pick and pull which overlays we want, but putting that, I'd struggle to figure out how to get the bike and pedestrian plan on here without really crowding the map.
Could a compromise, Nate, be, I agree that it would be too much on this map, but I know in the comp plan it says refer to the bike, but could we have that as an attachment, that actual bike map somewhere as an attachment? So if you're in this one document, you can at least,
Yeah, you're talking about the comp plan. Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be an exhibit. Yeah.
yeah, just,
I know we do have some tight timelines tonight with the chili supper. I don't think we're gonna be able to be as aggressive with our agenda as we'd want. But is there anything else right away on this future land use plan that really pops out to you as problematic or things you would like to discuss? At least get.
I suggest that we make all light green to yellow based on the new information we just learned today. And since it's future, and I've gone back and forth, Nate, on this, but I think the Prairie Wind Park large green parcel should be yellow. Even though that hopefully never happens, but if the city and other people can't maybe someday find a grant money to buy that, need an exit strategy.
This, we're not like, this is just into draft number 3 or something like that, right? We're not, okay. It's coming back again.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the soccer field and this would become yellow.
Correct. That's not our intent. But at some point, if the city or the county or nonprofit doesn't buy Prairie Wind, we need a plan.
I think making them all yellow prevents commercial, which maybe is the goal. But I mean, at some point, like when you look at all the yellow, if there's no place, let's say out here by Mahoney Road, that somebody wants to put a convenience store, and there's a bunch of houses out there and we want to have something like that. I think making them yellow is a little too aggressive. I would say commercial, flex commercial residential, the orange.
Just for the Lewison Road?
Well, all the light green, because that's a big, if you take all the light green and make it yellow, that's a lot of land.
Okay, I totally agree, and I amend my suggestion to Justin's.
I see that all in bigger cities that
Yeah.
have developed. You see like little pocket neighborhoods where they've got a little multi-tenant shop with like, yeah. So we want to encourage those pocket
Yeah.
neighborhoods.
I'll
That's-
talk. It sounded like there was some interest from this group and looking at some of the other recommendations that Kristen had about calling like urban reserve or long-term growth area. And I think maybe we kind of ask about that a little bit more. And maybe that's exactly what we're looking for is we don't want to restrict it to just ag, but we
Or
also
just
don't
housing.
want, or just housing. And so we want to be really thoughtful on that. And so what she was really encouraging was a more broad category that still allows it to say like, oh yeah, you can use this as ag, that's fine. But eventually it has the opportunity to grow into something more. Okay.
I will just add that I'm only comfortable removing all of our green space in our map if we have some kind of a deadline on creating that, those development standards that require certain amounts of green space within new developments and things like that, because otherwise we will end up with houses and buildings. So,
We do have the subdivision ordinance that sort of
Mhm.
plays into that. But again, you're
I
talking.
think it,
I think
right, I don't think it's
overall-
very good.
Yes,
it
I
needs
think
to be more
overall our
aggressive.
zoning needs
Yeah.
to be redone.
Mhm.
And what's important to know is the future land use planning certainly does something, but until we change our zoning is our zoning that is currently right now, Tanya.
Okay.
So like changing the future land use plan doesn't really do anything except set us up for updating our zoning admin.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Mitch, anything from you?
They're not always like this. These meetings are always like
Jan, David?
I'm good.
Okay.
Do you mind if we move on? Like Nate said, I've got a roll. I promised I'd be out of here at 6 and I'm not going to be, but I'd like to be as close to that as we can. So can we move on to item number 5, Nate?
Sure.
All right. Item number 5 is discussion and review of draft goals, objectives, and recommendations, which I think we just gave you a lot of them. But there's always time for more. Turn on your mic if you would, so they.
I have an overall, what I see as a gap, but maybe I'm missing something.
Sure.
I don't see, I completely understand we have a separate outdoor recreation plan, but I don't see that referenced in a way to me that is completely necessary in the comprehensive plan. So we have a housing section, we have transportation, utilities, there's no, and then we have
It would be under
agricultural.
utilities and community facilities.
But I tried to look for it. Where is it?
So it should be solid waste and recycling. So let me rephrase it. If it were to go anywhere, it would either be that one or the agricultural, natural, and cultural resources.
I think community facilities makes sense where you
Right.
first said.
And
To me, it doesn't even hardly pop out. Like to me, it's completely absent, not just a little bit absent in that section.
yep.
If that's true, and I agree, but I think if that's true with the outdoor recreation plan, we need to make sure that the historic preservation plan gets the same.
I think it is in it. I think I saw that somewhere.
To the same level though?
It doesn't even have to be to the same level. There's just there's nothing even. And I could go over just one-on-one with you, Nate, if we want to speed this along.
Yeah. Well, and part of that's what we were hoping to accomplish the last few months is like sending these out and said, here's goals and recommendations. Please send all your feedback to Kristen so she can kind of pick out themes and stuff like that. And
I
so
thought we weren't supposed to go to Kristen directly.
what's that?
I thought we were never supposed to contact the consultant directly.
I think she was specifically asking in an email for that. Do you remember this? Yeah, she specifically asked in an email for you guys to send any contributions you had regarding your goals and objectives to her.
I didn't
You
get
weren't
that
part- you-
email.
You wouldn't have been on the council, you wouldn't have been on the plan commission. So this was months ago, Tanya.
But that's before we had this though, right?
No. No, this would have been out.
I missed an email. Maybe that's when my mom and dad died.
Oh. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, you get a pass.
Okay.
But that's okay. I'm just saying that.
I'm just saying this is significantly missing. It needs like, there's a goal 1, there's a goal 2. There needs to be, I think it should be within like a goal 3 before solid waste, like solid waste maybe should be, or it could be a goal 5. It could be just a 5th goal.
Yeah. So let's do this because we are short on time here. You probably have a lot. Mitch needs to play some catch up and go through all this stuff. I will ask that you guys send me any changes you have in an email. Just to me.
Okay, just so you know, with my timing, just literally with what's going on, I won't redraft anything. I'll just say I notice this is missing, but I'm not gonna make a literal change. Is that okay?
Yeah, no. Yeah,
Okay,
totally fine.
okay,
Yeah, you
okay.
don't go into the document
Okay,
and do
good.
anything. Just write up an email, bullet
But
point
it won't be
format.
that detailed. It'll
Yeah.
just be, I noticed this is
Yeah,
missing.
no, and that's all good. And that's part of
Okay.
the reason why I'm really, what I've come to find out is that sending folks emails and saying like, hey, spend time in doing this hasn't always gotten like the best response. And not just anyone in this group. I'm saying overall historic preservation plan, the park and rec committee, like it's when we get into these rooms that we start bouncing ideas, then it becomes easier to say, like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, I get it now. I'll send you a bunch of the changes I found. So So send them to me in an email and I will start to
Okay.
collate that feedback to our consultants and see if we can start making those changes, and then we'll
And
come back at
the
next
other,
meeting.
to me, major miss, which is minorly mentioned, but it gets to what Tanya brought up, is just, there's like one or two words about some kind of green infrastructure, but it doesn't describe at all what that is. So to me, there just needs to be a concerted effort to conserve water, to conserve energy, and dark sky, like those three things.
Yeah.
In design guidelines or in development practices or.
Sure. And if you
Yeah.
want to take a stab at either writing the goal, writing the action
Mhm.
steps, writing, because we kind of break it down through that, like, hey, here's what we're hoping to achieve. Here's some of our objectives we want to accomplish to get there. And here's some specific action steps to get towards those objectives. If you want to write them in any three fashion, I can work with that.
Okay. Be able to.
I have a question because the comprehensive plan, the full document that was sent to me and the issues and the modified just
The
goals, objectives, recommendations that you sent they're different. Which makes me wonder, like, it seems like you've already, like, there's been some changes already
Yes.
made and I wondered, I mean,
Yes. So the
how
great,
that affects my copy of the.
yeah, great,
comprehensive
great
plan.
question. My understanding is that the goals, objectives, recommendations that are standalone are the most updated ones.
So this
Yes,
What you
the
sent.
brief
sta-
thing
the
that you sent out,
standalone
okay.
document is the
Yeah.
most updated one, because when I talked to Chris, she said, okay, if you guys are interested in having them as like one succinct package, I'm not gonna go back in throughout the document and make all the changes to those until you make the
Until we
changes in the
make-
core
okay.
document.
Okay.
And I said, that's fair. Let's not be duplicative in our work. But I do realize now I should have I should have let you guys know that, like,
Well, I'm-
hey,
Glad I looked at these because I
Yeah.
had made all my notes on the
The
original
sta- yeah.
document and then when
David-
I was
yeah.
like, whoa, these are
David, Jan,
different.
did you get that comment there? Again, the standalone goals, objectives that I sent out separately, those are the most up-to-date one that you should be marking up or making comments on. The ones that are embedded within the rest of the comprehensive plan, they're now outdated.
In general, I just wanted to add that, I feel like in general, the whole thing is lacking action steps that aren't just sort of, I feel a little cut and paste. And it starts heavy and then gets lighter as you go on. So like by the time you get to the last few goals, I'm like, this doesn't mean anything, it's very light on specific action and really heavy on vague support this. So to me, I don't think the word support or encourage should be in a recommendation. That's
That's an
objective. A recommendation needs to be like, so that's in general my overall.
I think in one of the meetings I was in, we talked about that and the fact that like the plan, correct me if I'm wrong, like I remember specifically somebody else brought that up in one of the conversations and it was Kristen's position of like, well, this plan isn't to lay out all of your detailed action steps. It's to give you kind of guiding principles. So as you're making decisions in the future, like this is the basis of the, it's the intention that you need to follow in crafting specific actionable steps. I'm not saying I disagree with you, but I
Yeah.
do remember that conversation happening in one of our meetings. So I'm not surprised to hear you say that because
Yeah.
that was
Yeah,
discussed.
But
So-
there's plenty of pretty good
Sure.
action steps in
Mhm.
here. So,
yeah.
yeah.
So, and that's what's really been interesting about going through all three of these plans is that sometimes we don't know exactly what it is we need to do. Right? But we know what we want to accomplish, but we don't know exactly what it is we need to do to get there. And so like planning begets more planning. And so like to your point, like there may be some areas that are unfleshed out because through Kristen and Dana and the rest of theirs public engagement, community engagement, interviews and stuff like that, it just may not have been fleshed out in those. And so that's why they need us to like carry it to the next level because there's only so much we can go by our boots on the ground time there.
So
that-
that's what you're asking us to try to do?
Yeah,
Okay.
flesh it out, take it further, but also understand that having
Isn't that what we're paying them for?
to a degree, but if we haven't given them the information, they can't manifest
Right.
it, right? Like it
But it is interesting what Tanya mentioned. It's very I think excellent in the beginning with so many details
right.
and really specifics, but it's sort of like they got tired or their knowledge was lacking as you go further.
Sure. And and I'm not saying we can't,
Yeah, yeah,
Tanya, I'm
yeah.
not saying we can't
Yeah.
press them. It's like, we need a little bit more here.
In the ending part.
They're certainly willing to be at the table. What I just said to them is like, you folks have done a good job and you gotten us this far. I want to put you on pause so that we can dig our hands in the dough a little bit, really get familiar with it. And then like Dana, she's like, I need you to make these changes for the next meeting. Great. Here you go. Kristen, I need you to respond to these information. Great. Here you go. But part of what I'm trying to do is have us take ownership and really get into it. And then, yes, we can come back to them and say, there's only so much, we know we need something here, but we don't know what it is we need. Can you bring your wisdom in on this? And then, yeah, they're happy to. There came to a point where they stopped getting feedback from us, really good, consistent feedback from us. And that's when I said, hang on a second, let us take some time to give you some feedback and then we'll circle back up.
And I would assume
makes
that
sense.
the document is really robust in the beginning because those were the things that they got, that the community was very robust about. And as they
Oh, that's a
worked
good
down
point,
their
Justin.
line, they
Yeah.
probably just,
Because
well,
I'm
this
assuming the
was less-
housing's really high.
you know what I mean? I've been,
The housing one is the
Right.
biggest.
I've been tremendously impressed with the quality. Like they're interactive, like they're trying really hard to give us a good product. So I don't have any impression that they were just getting like lazy or bored and just
That makes sense.
ignoring.
Yeah.
I think it was,
Yeah.
they heard this was a thing, but not a real pressing thing. So it's a smaller blip than the first few things that are very substantive.
Makes sense. Okay.
So again, we have a little bit of time, and again, in a couple weeks, the council is gonna go under sort of a similar thing. We're gonna sit down, we're gonna look at this, and we're gonna talk through them. I'm gonna try to have a more, what's the word, curated process for them, just because there's more of them, and I'm gonna try to sort of hold hands a little bit more on that one, but everybody's gonna be doing this for the next 2 or 3 months, so that we can really flesh this out to be a document that we feel is legitimate and speaks to Baroque. So take some time, write up emails to me and I'll try to collate them and send them over to the consultants, and then they can say, I see, they want more of this. Perfect, let's give them more of this.
Good.
Great.
Anything else on that one?
David, Jan, I'm trying to make sure you guys have time to chime in. We're moving pretty fast here. Anything you guys want to jump in on?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Item number 6, discussion and review of additional elements of the comprehensive plan, which I think, again, we've been very, very much digging into that. Is there anything that you feel that we need to address in that particular agenda item? All right. Item number 7 is period for public comment. We have no public here. I'm sure there's none online.
It does not. Nope, I think you're good.
Okay.
Mayor.
Take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
I
We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Sorry for the rush there.